So, hi everyone, welcome to the RGB Games Programming Conference, Red for Indie edition, the first edition of the RGB Conference. I'm really happy to be here with all of you, here on site and also online through the streaming and the recording later on YouTube. And because it's a tech conference, not an art conference, I think a better font is in order. Comic Sans is always like the best font for to be designer or artist following your conference. A lot of game jam games and also a bit bigger games. I'll show you a bit later. I'm also the head of the games programming department at SI Institute Geneva, and the co-organizer of the game developer Swiss Romande meetup. And no, I don't ride horse, so I don't know why I always put this photo, but I like it. And I'm also the main organizer of this event. And so the kind of games we did at Team KwaKwa are going everywhere. So I can't say we're doing a certain genre of game. I'm sorry, I'm really like indie in the worst way possible. And I worked with a lot of different artists as well. So the art direction go everywhere. But currently I'm working on Soup Raiders. It's a tactical RPG with a real-time battle system with where you follow a crew of pirates, animal pirates, going through an ocean of soup. The world is in a big soup and fighting against the evil Mr. Whale. So I'll show you a little video of the current gameplay. There's some technical difficulties. I'll show the video later anyway. Hop là. Wait. Okay, ouais. So, hop là. Ah, better. And so I wanted to open this conference with a little keynote, a call for dumb decisions. Because as indie game developer, sometimes it's good that we do some little stupid choices that in the end can either beat us or make for surprising ideas. And sometimes you have a dumb idea like, oh, I would love to make a Game Boy game, for example. I mean, I really love the Game Boy. It was my first handheld console, and And I wanted to know how it actually worked. And of course, when you say something like this, like to a friend like Frédéric Duboucher, he would say, like, why? Why would you do that? But not in a positive way. And then it's the kind of moment when someone says something like this to me, I'll be like, why not? And I did it. So I did a little Game Boy game in 2017 with Alexis Simonetta. He did the art and the music, and I did the horrible task that is programming for the Game Boy. And it was doing the Game Boy Jam. So Game Boy Jam is sort of Game Boy feel game jam where you can do a PC game with like the resolution of the Game Boy. Like you can embed it in like a Game Boy image, for example. You don't have to do an actual Game Boy game, but some people do, like me. But really don't make a Game Boy game. It's like really a bad idea. For me, it's like my Vietnam War. It's really like, it's 10 days that are like in my mind for the rest of my life. Like, really don't make a Game Boy game. Because the Game Boy is like a really limited system, so you have a big hardware constraint. And well, how do you want to implement a jump for a platformer? Because the game was a dungeon platformer. How do you implement a jump when you only have integer with 8-byte or 16-byte, and you have no multiplication or division in hardware? So it means because we were using a sort of bad C compiler that was not doing a lot of optimization, if you put multiplication, it would transfer to some instruction that would do a multiplication, but that is not a multiplication. Or a division, because when you want to have an odd or even number, you would use the remaining of the division operator, the percent. But then it's a division, and so behind it's going to be a really bad performance. So you have to like be creative. And there's no floating point number, so how do you do a nice quadratic polynomial for your jump? Well, it's actually a nice, it's an interesting question, because when you have constraints that does not exist for modern hardware, you will learn to work with those constraints, and you start to be more creative and understanding how your hardware work. And it's something that we've been missing a bit as programmer, because we're like, oh, we have this abstract machine, it's going to work, no problem, I have infinite memory, and it's going to be fine. But when you start to have games with a lot of entities and things like this, then you have to sort of think about optimization as well. But on the other hand, sometimes when nobody is doing something, maybe it's for a reason as well. So maybe don't do a Game Boy game. Or another one, I made a Game Boy Game Jam game, a little prototype of a multiplayer game with a friend from the game developer meetup. And I was showcasing it at Fantasy Basel, and people were liking it. And so I said to this friend, Kevin Peckley, oh, let's make a Game Jam prototype too, and let's make it a full game. And he's like, yeah, sure. It's only going to take 3 months, like a little game that we can do. It took 3 years. Because when you have an idea of how long you're going to do a game, you know you can multiply by 10 if you want. It's gonna be approximately a good approximation. And it's Splash Blast Panic, and I'm really happy about this game because we put a lot of ourselves in it, and we gained a lot of experience for console port as well. I didn't put a video because then we have to switch also to the next keynote. But it's pretty fun. It's Super Smash Bros. With jetpack and water gun. Another kind of situation is, as a teacher, I always want to innovate, try something new. And I have a computer graphic course at Design Institute Geneva where my students have to do their own C++ render for in OpenGL for a 3D scene, and I was like, it would be nice to have game art students who want to be tech art and understand how it works, the graphics API, but they can't do a C++ render by hand, that for sure. They barely can script, so I can't make them implement their own renderer. There's like some solution, but not exactly what I wanted. So the kind of idea I had is like, and I wanted them also as well to learn a bit of GLSL as well, to code a bit of shaders, but not to go in the grit of how OpenGL work and which code to do for what, to have sort of an abstraction behind and do some GLSL. So what I did is, let's make a custom computer graphic editor where they can like import their shader, they can like import their 3D models, code some Python, and then magically it would do the 3D scene. And that's what I did. It took a lot of time to make it work. So it was sort of stable. And so you like import the shaders there, you can like edit them in the editor, then you create pipelines. In those pipelines you put all your shader together, put some parameters to it, then you can add some texture and merge them with the pipeline. It makes materials. You could create your meshes either through the import of a model or with some primitives. You then with the material and a mesh you create a draw command. You put that in a render pass that you put in your scene with some scripts, ta-da, and you have a 3D scene. And actually, then I could open my course to game art students, and they could follow the course, not the gritty OpenGL thingy, but at least the sort of abstraction, understand them and sort of apply them, and see them on RenderDoc and see how it works. And this year I had the idea of adding a Vulkan renderer. Because I wanted to play a bit with ray tracing, and really, like, just don't do Vulkan. It's probably one of the worst API I've had to work with. It's way too verbose. I mean, it gives a lot of responsibility to a programmer, but I'm not ready for that much responsibility. And even though now with Vulkan 1.3, there is some like simplification of something, it's coming closer to what OpenGL used to be with sort of this, not the state-based programming, but you can like, through the generation of the draw command, change some parameters instead of caching them in the pipeline. I mean, I'm going in the great detail of Vulkan. It's not the most important, but if you're like so enthusiastic to do a game engine with Vulkan, prepare to work some months, years probably. And the last sort of dumb decision I took is like, hey, let's organize a conference. There's going to be a full room of people, and I'll have a lot of money, and it's going to be perfect. And because I never do things halfway, let's organize a conference 3 times a year. That's even a better idea. And tadam, that's why we're here for the RGB Games Programming Conference. And so the concept behind the RGB is red for indie, green for industry, and blue for students. And yes, if you ask, it's really FF00, 0FF0, 000FF. Like, if there's still some art people, it's really like the last filter. And so today we're gonna see some really wonderful speaker through the red for indie. The green for industry, I'm gonna do some announcement at the closing keynote, but it's gonna be early February. And the blue for student is in June, probably end of June. And the goal for me is to have all the kind of people that you would see in the games programming area domain, but to give them a place to make some talks, to train a bit. So today it's a bit the weird kind of take on the industry. In February it's going to be a bit more standard with bigger feature keynotes, feature speakers. And the blue for students is also as well to speak about how do we want to educate our next programmer? What do we want them to think about as well? So it's not just about students talking, but also about teacher, and maybe also if you're looking for a junior programmer, a place to make some technical interviews, for example. That's a bit the goal for the June edition. But today is red for indie. And we have 7 speakers. After my opening keynote, we're going to have Tom Avatar, who's going to talk about his video game album and video game concert. I'm really looking forward for it. Florian Golesti is going to talk about the Unreal gameplay ability system and showcase a bit how he's using it. David Stark is going to talk about his procedural map generation in Airship Conquer the Sky, where he's using his own custom game engine. Nicolas Reynaud is going to talk about the game architecture behind Last Night and how they're empowering designer to create a small, dense, simulated open world in Unity. Julien Revel is going to talk about his scenario and an AI system that he's been using in his past games and current games. Oleg Loshkin is going to make an overview of audio for video games. Sebastian Graffenried is going to talk about designing a UI system from scratch. And in the end, after my closing keynote at 6 p.m. in the open space, we're going to have the concert game from Tom Avatar. Really looking forward for it. But before everything starts, just a little note on the code of conduct. I mean, it's not really difficult. We're not that much people, and just let's be nice. Let's not be assholes. It's not because you code in JavaScript that you're the worst person in the world. So like, let's be nice, let's exchange in a cordial and professional manner. Of course, we can laugh, we can do some jokes, but let's please be nice. Don't block the open door of the conference entrance, otherwise there's an alarm that is gonna ring and security is gonna come, and we don't want to have that. So if you're a smoker, just go outside. There's always gonna be someone next to the door to open you back, or if you leave as well. So don't worry about leaving the building, please. And so keep your glass, and maybe try not to eat here as well. That would be nice. There's enough space in the open space to eat for lunch. Enjoy the event. Thank you very much.